Hey everybody, C Note here, and welcome to C Note FM. This is your host, Mr. Christian Rivera, and I'm bringing you the show that is kind of like your mom's home cooking. Delicious. It's real good. Put it in your gullet, enjoy it. Today, I'm speaking a little low because Molly's sleeping still. She's probably awake and listening to me, but whatever. I just wanted to set up today's interview, which is with Brandon Guzzardo. It's a good interview between him and I. He had, or has, epilepsy and deals with that in terms of his career. He was working a quote-unquote regular job, kind of a factory, a striped job. I can't remember. We did the interview like 2 weeks ago. And from there, he ended up not being able to keep that job because of that, his liability reasons, and decided to learn some graphic design and start building his own business to help businesses create social graphics, which is great, and it's working out for him, so that's awesome. Yeah, without further ado, I'll just take you to it. Let's do it.
Drums, please.
Why north, west, south, west, south side, right, yeah. Now here it is.
All right, so here we go, recording. With me today, I have my good friend Brandon Guzzardo here with me to talk. Say hello, sir.
What's up, audience? How's it going?
So, today I just wanted to have, this is probably like you're the third guest that I've had in this like renaissance of new guests that I'm going to have on the show over the next, over the next few months. So, just to give people a sense of who you are, why don't you give your little spiel, your sales pitch, who you are, what you do, and what do you eat? What do you eat for breakfast?
Sure. Well, first off, Christian, thanks for having me on. I wouldn't call it much of a sales pitch. I don't really look at myself as sales. I just look at myself as a guy that's trying to actually genuinely connect with people and make relationships. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they make money, sometimes they don't.
Right.
But who am I and what do I do? Well, I'm a Midwest factory worker that didn't know anything about computers until 2 years ago. And I was totally content working in that lifestyle and that mindset. But I was actually diagnosed with epilepsy about 6 years ago. And in the beginning, it was fine. I was able to work. It didn't interfere because my seizures only take place at night during my sleep. But after a while, word got out and I became an insurance liability, if you will, and it became almost impossible to find jobs that paid anything above minimum wage. And as we all know, nobody can survive on that stuff these days.
Right.
So rather than doing what everybody suggested and going in and, living off a disability, I wanted to do something where I could still contribute. So I started turning to the internet and looking towards that. I started first doing building websites and doing SEO, which I found out quick is insanely boring and not fun at all. And then, I made decent money, but being stuck in front of the computer constantly doing coding and messing with that stuff and keywords, and it just wasn't fun. I didn't like it. So
it's so hard. I've been doing it. I don't really do it so much these days. Like if I do it, it's for an exorbitant amount of money, but I've done it since I was a kid. And yes, you just sit in front of the computer and you're just staring. It involves focus that I do not have.
Yeah. Well, I can focus on things that actually deeply appeal to me, and the website and SEO didn't. What I do right now, I do graphic design, which has actually been a nice merging of a few things that I've been interested in, and I never really mentally was able to combine them all into one thing. But I've always been into art. I've always had an artistic nature. I've enjoyed working with wood a lot throughout my life, and so creating things out of nothing has been something that I enjoy doing. And then I've learned recently in the last 2 years that I actually enjoy the computer a lot.
Okay.
especially since I got involved on Facebook, because it's a whole nother world on Facebook. The people I've met, the connections I've made have changed my life in the last 2 years. So now I get to combine the art and the computer and keep those two worlds that I enjoy together so I can enjoy them both at the same time. So that's kind of how I'm at where I'm at now.
Right. So it
If that
seems like you really found a way to make a difficult situation into something that works for you.
Yeah, and I think,
So
you
that's
know,
yeah.
for those listening, anybody can do that, really. I mean, I think a lot of people feel like they get stuck in their situation, and I think it comes down to knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge on how to get out from where you're at, then go out and get it. And the internet is the perfect platform to find it. If you can't find what you're looking for online, the answer doesn't exist.
Yeah. So what have you been doing to try to like up your game in terms of technical ability and artistic ability? Do you or do you like YouTubers? Do you have a specific YouTuber or Facebook or groups or anything? Like how do you go about learning new things?
It's constantly evolving. I've been doing the Facebook thing heavily with organic marketing for the last 8 months. I first got involved with Landon Porter and getting clients without being salesy, which you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
I started in that group, and it opened my eyes to what groups could do and how networking could really make an impact. And from there, I started actively seeking out people that I knew I wanted in my world, people that knew how to do copywriting, people that knew how to do Facebook ads, people that knew how to do organic marketing, Google ads, LinkedIn, YouTube, video, all that stuff, so that I could bring all the pieces of the puzzle of marketing together in my world. That way, when I knew I was ready to make a decision on what I wanted to do, I had the network to access to really go from there. And once I started doing the graphic design 4 months ago, I've been steady with clients ever since, purely from referrals. And I don't know if you've looked at my page or not, but I haven't even set up my page for business or anything. I don't even have my business name on there or nothing. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
you know,
Still very much a work in progress, like we all are.
well, I mean, when I first started doing the graphic designs, I didn't, I wasn't planning on doing it for an income. I actually just put some profile picture overlays together for Landon's group,
Mhm.
getting clients without being salesy. And people started
Right.
reaching out to me, and they're like, dude, that's fucking awesome. You should sell that. And I was like, oh, I never thought of that. Okay, that's a good idea. And it went from there. So,
Yeah,
but
it's
anyways,
kind of amazing how these ideas just kind of come out of just things that we like doing. That's what I've done my entire career is like I like editing video, I like shooting video, I like talking to people. Well, sometimes, and you know, I like I like doing graphic design. I love all this stuff, so I try to find ways to implement it into businesses. Now, for you, it seems like networking and talking to people all comes very naturally to you. Would you say that's true? Or, like, has that been probably your biggest? It seems like that's been your biggest push for getting yourself out there is literally talking to people and not just trying to vaguely communicate on the internet, but actually talking with human beings.
yeah, well, I enjoy talking to people. I didn't used to when I was younger, like in my 20s, I was an introvert. But when I moved down to Florida, and I lived in Naples, Florida for a few years, and that's a hotbed of cultures from all over the world because it's a tourist area. So, I got to
Right.
meet and experience a lot of stuff that I didn't when I was younger. And from there, I learned to enjoy meeting people and seeing what people go through and what makes them who they are and how they solve their problems and stuff. Because um, I think that's what's great about Facebook is it's bringing us back to that level. I think that's where real power is in your interactions with other people, because you can learn so much off of other people. Even if you think you can't learn something from them, I guarantee you can, as long as your mind is open to accepting that.
Yeah, you have to be willing to listen, have conversations, even talk about things that you feel like you know. I just put out
Yeah.
a something on the group today, actually, just maybe like 15 minutes ago, about filtering out low-paying clients via like the discovery phase or something like that. And that's something I'm pretty familiar with, and I have some of the answers to. But by putting something out there like that, that maybe you feel like you know everything about, and you
Yeah.
just put it out there, you'd be surprised that you could learn a thing or two about something you aren't yet familiar with. So, how do you feel you're doing in terms of like your design, in terms of like your your quality, your skill set, throughput? Are there what areas do you feel like you could use some growth in?
Um, for me, I think all areas, because every time I get a new client, I try and push myself to do better than I did the last time. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have like any formal training on this stuff. I started off just using the basic paint program on my computer, and now I've actually got
Right.
the Adobe Creative Suite. So that's nice. It's been a big change, but I'm still learning
Mm-hmm.
how to do that. And thank God for YouTube, because you can learn anything on YouTube. But yeah, every time I get a client, I always work with them and try and find out how I can take what they want to do and make it bigger, take it to the next level. That's why I started doing the packages that I do now, because I found like a lot of logo designers, they'll just design a logo and they'll give it over to their client and that's it. And their client has no idea how to use it, how to make it look as best as it can, the scope of how
Right.
much they can use it for, all this stuff. So I put together packages for Facebook now so that my clients have all the files they need to put their logos and their brand on every image, every post, every video. It's all pre-sized and pre-set up to fit Facebook specific requirements. That way they don't have to
Mm-hmm.
think about it. And that was something that nobody else was doing, and that's what's really worked for me in bringing in clients, because my clients don't want to mess with learning how to use, Adobe or any of those other complicated programs. They want something they can quickly go into, grab a file, throw it onto the.
If you've been dying to start that podcast about doves, or about your favorite jacket, or about a long lost love, or a murder mystery about a cat who murdered everybody, you can start it now on Spotify for podcasters. I've been on Anchor for a long time, and now it is officially Spotify for podcasters, and it has been a platform that has been growing for forever. And I love it, and I still use it to this day, and it has hosted this podcast for 500 plus episodes now. So I highly recommend it. It is free to use. Spotify for podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. I'm literally on my bed recording on my, like the phone is on the bed and I'm just talking, and it's not that complicated. And then you can distribute your podcast on Spotify and everywhere else that podcasts are heard. So video podcasts are available too if you want to show your pretty face and have people see you. And you can do all that too. So just do it. It's totally free, no catch. Give it a try. Spotify for podcasters. Let's go.
Their image, throw their type on there real quick, and then get it out there to the world. And that's what they enjoy about what I put together.
Do you use video to explain some of the usages of the logo and design and stuff, or do you
Yes.
just do you design a document? Like, how do you go about sharing that with them?
I do both. I send them documents that show them pixel sizes that Facebook operates in. So when they do create their images, they know how to keep them in the size that's going to look the best. And I also send them videos that are specific for each category. So they'll have a file group for their picture overlays. They'll have a file group for their video overlays. And then they'll have a file group of just their logos separately in its various variations. And I'll have a video for each file group showing them how to use these files, what programs to use to make these files look their best, how to upload them so that they don't get pixelated and look terrible. Because for me, it's really annoying when you see someone trying to represent their brand and they upload their logo and it looks terrible on the web because nobody told them how to do it. It could be a really great logo, but it doesn't look professional because it comes up all foggy. You know what I'm saying?
Right, or it's cropped weird or
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it's a dead
Yeah.
fire sign that the person doesn't know what they're doing. And unfortunately, they may know, but that little visual aspect has a huge impact on a person's audience.
Oh, it's huge. It's a make or break between whether or not you look professional or not. It's, graphic design is, there's a lot of weird things going on with graphic design because the perception of value is kind of low, because everyone thinks that their little cousin Johnny can do it. But it does take some know-how, some expertise, and industry knowledge as well,
Right.
which seems like you bring to the table. So that's awesome that you do that for your clients. And it seems like you're really well organized and structured with this. Or do you typically consider yourself like a pretty organized person in some
I
sense?
try. The downfall there, or in that aspect, Christian, is epilepsy has had a huge impact on my brain, mostly my memory. It's pretty much non-existent. After about 2 weeks, I pretty much forget everything that has happened. And I've tried a lot of different things to fix that, but it's just the impact it's had on my brain wiring. So I use a lot of technology to assist. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, I forget a lot of things, and thankfully my clients they understand that, and they don't have a problem reminding me. Like if I'm an hour past when I said I was going to be, they'll shoot me a message. Hey man, I assume you must have forgotten. I'm like, oh crap. Yeah. And then I get the problem fixed, you know? But I do what I can.
Are you typically,
Go ahead.
yeah, are you typically forthright with that? The fact that
Yeah.
you kind of have those issues, and this has been a prevalent part of your life?
That's been a huge aspect for me in business is learning to be transparent. It's made a huge change in my relationships with my client because, you know, there's no benefit of hiding something from someone, you know, put it all on the table. And if they feel at that point that it's not something that works for them, that's cool, man. No hard feelings. We continue our friendship or whatever, but you know, we go our separate ways. I think people get caught up in too much in needing that business, and they lie and cheat and say things they don't mean because they think it'll make it better, and it just makes it worse in the long run.
Yeah, they sell themselves
Yes.
short one way or the other. They overpromise and end up under delivering,
Yes.
and that's not good for
No,
anyone.
no. And it's worse for the person's self-esteem because it tends to always turn out bad, and the person always feels bad in the end, and it just causes a downward spiral. If you start off on the right foot to begin with, it changes the dynamics of the game.
Right. So, do the memory issues and any aspects of the epilepsy have any effect on your output throughout the day? Do you take time to kind of like rest a little bit more than maybe you did in the past, or are you still kind of are you pretty consistent with the amount of work that you're doing?
I don't really rest that much. To be honest, if I'm not on the computer doing my networking on Facebook, then I'm working on a design project. Um, or I'm watching training videos. I consume a bunch of training. I try to at least put in 3 hours a day just for that alone because everything online changes so rapidly that if you're not on top of it all the time, you're in the dust. But yeah,
Right.
I try to bracket out my time throughout the day to allow for that stuff. But I'll be honest, sometimes when I get in design mode and I'm in there and I got the headphones in and the music's going, I lose track of time. And next thing I know, 6 hours is gone. You know, it happens. But, you know,
I miss those days. I used to love graphic design that much. Not saying that you'll fall out of it, but I was kind of early in my career. I spent a lot of time on graphic design. More these days, I do more video and music production stuff. I'll occasionally put graphic design elements into those
yeah.
pieces and still offer those services to clients. But I kind of, at least personally, I fall into more focused territory with different things these days. And just an example that sometimes your career might evolve and change. And this is more for the audience, really. That I speak a lot on my podcast about like to young people in college, like 20 to 25, who are like always asking, like, or thinking to themselves that they have to have like a set
Mhm.
career, and things change all the time. You know, you spent a long time in one career and then had to make a shift. And I think speaking to the realism of that is important for young kids to
Yes,
understand.
there is no set path. Definitely speaking to the audience, those of you that are listening, even those people that start their life out and they go to college for this job, they get that job, they work that job for 40 years, they still will tell you it changes all the time throughout the way. You know, technology changes, people change, your position within your job changes, the knowledge to make that job successful changes. And if you're not taking the time to be adaptive and constantly learn on a daily basis, that's when you fall behind and you lose momentum. You become stagnant. You have to actively approach each day. I'm going to do the best that I can in whatever it is I'm doing today.
Right. For your day to day, do you allocate specific times to learning, or is it just kind of like in between projects, or when you're feeling like you want to learn something? What does that process look
Okay,
like for
well,
you?
most people at the end of their day, they sit down and they watch television. I instead, that's the time of day I consume video content, either through YouTube or through replays of live videos or, replays of webinars, whatever the case may be. Because I actually have gotten to the point
Right.
where that stuff's insanely entertaining to me, especially nowadays, because there is a theatrical aspect to that stuff. Like if you ever watch any of Bobby Donahue's videos, his stuff is hilarious. The guy's a comedian, but at the same time, he delivers insane value as well. So it's fun to watch and learn at the same time. But at the same time, too,
Right.
during the day when I'm working, there are times where I need to pull myself away. Like I'll have a brain fart or something, and I know that I just need to pull myself away, focus my mind on something else for a little bit, come back, and the solution will present itself. So during those times too, I'll pull away, do some training, maybe read a book or maybe do some yoga. I've started doing that recently, which as a man, I said I would never do that, but I got to tell you, for the guys out there that are listening, this is not just a ladies thing. These women that are doing this, they don't
No.
tell you how difficult it is to get in some of these positions. And I got to tell you, it puts a serious strain on the muscles you wouldn't think it would do. So, yeah.
I've only done yoga maybe once or twice, and man, that is tough on your core, on your
Yes.
muscles, and you just have to hold that position for so long. And you're like, suddenly you just feel
Yep.
weak. You're like you're using muscles you didn't think you had.
Yep. I've had many a session where I
It's
get the
it's
shakes and I'm just sitting there. My arms are like shaking. I'm trying to hold myself. I can't do it anymore.
right. So I know it's easy to say that like graphic design and learning is your hobby, but you've mentioned yoga. Are there any other things that you like to do for yourself, like solely for yourself, things that you consume or enjoy,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
or whatever, or any kind of weird
Yeah,
fascinations?
I love watching Joe Rogan's podcast. Like the last 2 months, I've become insanely obsessed with his podcast and the versatility that he brings on board. And actually, in podcasts in general, I've been consuming a lot of podcasts. Um, Also, too, the woodworking. I still do that on the side. It's nice to unplug from the technology and go out into the shop and put some blisters on my hands and get slivers and create something that was a block and turn it into a nice jewelry box or, a cool shelf or a table or a chair or, whatever my mind comes up with at the time. I think
Right.
society is at the point where they can accept this. I love smoking weed. Like I smoke a lot of weed. I love weed.
Yeah.
It insanely increases my creativity. And I don't do it necessarily just to get high, but to open my mind and help me focus. I have certain strains where I can sit there and focus for hours and hours on end on the same thing without any problems.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would say those are all my hobbies.
Right. Yeah, I mean that definitely helps. I haven't done it much, but like occasionally I have, and it keeps me kind of focused. For me, I have cyclothymia, which is kind of a low grade
Hmm.
bipolar disorder, and it kind of affects basically my mood and energy level. Like right now, for instance, I'm kind of on the upper
Hmm.
side of the energy level, which is why I can kind of be more communicative, and I'm doing a bunch of interviews and I'm getting all
Yeah,
this stuff
I know
done
that.
because that's kind of propelling me and giving me the extra energy. Um, and occasionally I've been able to have a smoke with a friend or two, and it just kind of like chills me out, and it kind of levels me in a way
Yeah.
that's good. That I should probably do it more often.
Well, I actually, when I first started doing it, it was actually because of my epilepsy. When I was on the medications they had, I was literally having like every major negative side effect you could on all the medications they were giving me. And after 2 years, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I got to find something else. And I was introduced to the weed thing, and I gave that a shot. And that's what I've been using for the last 4 years. And I have far less seizures. Um, it helps me maintain my weight a lot better. I've learned a lot about it. You got to get into the strains. There's certain strains you can get that'll wake you up like coffee. And then there's other strains you can get that'll literally make you leave this planet and go somewhere else. And I mean, so if you're getting a strain that doesn't necessarily fit or conform with you, who you are, and what your body needs, it can have the wrong effect that, other than what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It really is. So we were talking a little bit about like, the interesting part is that people are more accepting of that sort of thing. And they're more accepting of different kinds of people and content and what we're doing in the world. I think a lot of people are moving towards authenticity much more in the media they consume, whether that's through YouTube, through Facebook video, things like that. Like we're so used to, over really the past 30, 40, 50 years of whenever TV was starting to come,
even
like even before then, even with radio, it's always like overproduced stuff. It's like, TV news. It's like everything's just like so heightened. And you start to see not only more regular people, but that regular people are interesting. Not just, not quote unquote reality TV where it's overly produced and you're manufacturing drama, but real people who are doing with real things, people talking about mental health issues or difficulties with jobs, things that they have to use throughout their day to get themselves into a good place, or the little tips and tricks that they're doing with video and production and design, and just like the real story of people putting in the effort and the struggle. Like, I think that there's like a little underground renaissance going on right now where that is the thing that a lot of people.
Yes. And you know what? I don't mean to correct you here, Christian, but I think it's more than underground now. I think, 10 years ago it was underground, but I think now it's become a much more mainstream movement. I really feel like the internet and social media is bringing about an awareness that didn't exist 10, 15 years ago. You're seeing it in the economics, you're seeing it in the politics, you're seeing it in the development of cities around the country. I mean, some cities have developed in the last 15 years purely because of the internet revolution. Like, look down in Texas and Dallas area. They're like massive business growth that's solely geared towards like the internet business world. It's crazy. You go down there and every single business has something to do with the internet.
Right. Yeah, this has been happening you're definitely right. It's been happening for a long time, and more so the past few years. It's really accelerating with people have more access to things that they can do even with just their cell phone, in terms of producing video or doing podcasts. Like, I started doing this podcast on Anchor, which is an app that's been available for maybe the last 2 years or so. I mostly started doing podcasts on there, which is super easy. You literally just talk into your phone and give it a name and post it. And I started doing a little bit more production value. Right now we're using Clearcast, which is great too. But this stuff's like so much easier than it used to be. It's almost laughable to not have people doing this stuff and talking and sharing, and just the openness of the internet allowing people to connect with each other and create things. It's pretty incredible when you stop and think about it.
Sometimes I think about it so in depth, Christian, that it actually hurts my head. Like, when you think of the vastness, and I'm serious, the web, like they picked the perfect name, the World Wide Web, because it legitimately is a web that if you can go down infinite rabbit holes for information. I mean, literally anything you want to know, anything you want to learn, anybody you want to become, anything you want to grow, you can do it online. And what I'm really happy to see is, through all the networking I've done, I'm networking with people that in my mind, previously, I would have thought I would not come across online because they're older, they're 60 years plus. And yet a lot of them I'm finding online as well too, and they're thriving online. It's really opened up. It's past the tipping point. Before it was an uphill battle online. I think we've passed the top of that hill and we're on the you know, downward run now. Everything's easier. Technology is advancing at a rate that's just mind boggling. I mean, Facebook makes changes, it seems like every 30 seconds. You know, it's an amazing part in history to be a part of, especially for, I think, our generation, because I think you're the same generation as me. I'm 35. I don't know how old you are, but I would guess around there. See,
32.
So I think our generation
32.
is the luckiest because we started our life when this stuff didn't exist, and we got to grow up a little bit, not having it around, and then experience its explosion as we come along. I think that's something the younger generation won't get the joy of having, and I think that's what helped us, our generation, make the internet what it is now because of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we definitely have a gratitude for it because of that, and I'm definitely grateful for being able to stream this stuff. And basically, we're both recording into a website right now, and it's, you know, there's no hiccup. You're right. There's no hiccups. It's really quick. We're talking from, you know, I'm up in Rochester, New York.
I'm in Janesville, Wisconsin.
Where are you exactly?
The armpit of Wisconsin, we call it.
All right. Well, there you go. See, we're pretty far apart and able to do this seamlessly and quickly. It's really amazing compared to 56K modems that we used to have to deal with the and taking up a phone line and just
Sorry, that was an alarm I had set for myself.
Answering phone.
Technology helping my memory.
Oh, I was hoping it was I was hoping it was a phone call so that we could have them on the air.
What blows my mind is, go ahead.
Yeah, so we can start.
I was just going to say, along the lines of what you were saying, just 5 years ago, I remember using Skype, and it was nearly impossible. And now there's like 1,000 video platforms that you can use to video chat with somebody that work as good as any cell phone connection. And we don't pay, you know, long distance fees anymore. You remember that with cell charges and stuff like that? You don't have to worry about it anymore. It doesn't exist. No international charges or anything.
10. Right. No. Collect calls. 10, 3, 2, 1.
I mean,
like all that stuff.
They don't know how good they got it. Like, this technology is amazing. It blows my mind every single day, and they're running around with their phones in their hands like it's a normal thing, which, you know, I can understand when you grow up around it, that makes sense, but I'm blown away daily by this stuff.
That's my favorite thing to say these days. Like, kids these days. Like, that's what I love saying it. Like, it's pretty great because it's true.
It's so true.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, we were talking about like young kids and having difficulties with realizing that their life is, you know, they've got a lot to happen still. Like, their things are going to shift and mold and change. And on the other end, there are people who are older who are still finding ways to easily take advantage. Like you said, you were able to connect with older people who are doing really well on the internet as well, who are adapting to technology and not letting, you know, it's easier, which is great, but I think it's also a mindset thing, which is a lot of what I talk about on this podcast. Like, everything is easy and accessible, and we could do so much on our phones, but we kind of tell ourselves, oh, I'm too old, I can't learn that, or I'm too young and I don't want to waste my time with that, or I need to figure out my career. And like, everything's exploding. Like, it's kind of interesting to kind of see the dichotomy there, especially with older people. Like, you could change your career, you know, next year. You could, like in your situation, you had a job for a long time and you had to switch gears and you found a way to make it work. And I think that happens for a lot of older people who they go into retirement and then maybe they don't like retirement, so they start a business, or even younger than that a bit, like maybe 50 to 55 years old. And they're like, I've worked at this job for 20 years and it's not cutting it anymore. And I finally feel like I can, my parents aren't alive anymore to tell me I can't do this, do what I want to do. And they decide to do something different. And the internet gives them the tools to do that. And it's pretty incredible.
Well, no, but
now we're just
you hit the nail right on the head. And I want to enhance what you said. It comes down to mindset. I've learned through my 35 years that when you're forced into having to do something, it's not nearly as fun as if you choose to do it. So if you make the conscious decision to have an open mind and understand that the only thing that's limiting you is literally your mind, because there's quadriplegics out there that don't have any limbs whatsoever and they're in bodybuilding competition. So don't tell me for a second that there's something limiting you that isn't worse for somebody else. It's only the mind. And that was when I first started doing this 2 years ago, I literally didn't think I could. And it took me a long time to realize that the reason I thought that was only because I didn't know how yet. That's all it was. Time and knowledge. You put those two things together and you can figure anything out, period. Especially with the internet.
Yeah. And I talk about that also in the context of mental health or any kind of like health difficulties that people have. It's like, even with those things, there are people who are able to, to work past those things, and not diminishing what those things are. Because for me, I definitely have very, very difficult days with depressive and manic states, where it becomes very difficult to work for long periods of time. And the reason that I do this podcast is to kind of help expose that to people, to let people know that other people are struggling. There's real things going on. People are dealing with real stuff. Like, you had to make a real life change because of what was going on in your life. And ultimately it seems like it's working out for the better for you. And for many people, they can also make that adjustment where they can find ways to make it better for them, regardless of what it is that they have to deal with. And just letting people know that they're not alone.
It is.
It's pretty huge.
Harkening back to what you were saying earlier with entertainment in the TV industry over the last several decades, we've been trained, our minds have been trained to think that this utopian lifestyle can actually exist. And in reality, it doesn't. Even if you talk to the top people in the world, Elon Musk, he's the only one I like. I can't think of the other names. But these guys, these top Bill Gates, I don't mind him too much. All right, you talk to these top producers, and they'll tell you, too, in candid interviews, that they have the same struggles we do. They have the struggle of getting up when they said they were going to get up, making the appointments on time, or actually putting forth the effort and stuff like that. But it's a conscious decision, and just like any other habit, you can learn to do it. And over time, as you train your mind to get into that role, it becomes a lot easier. It doesn't mean the struggle ever stops, which, let's talk about struggle for a second. Life is a struggle no matter what. You're going to struggle if your life sucks, or you're going to struggle if your life is awesome. The choice is, what struggle do you choose? A lot of people talk about, when they have that victim mentality and they're in a life where they don't have the money, their car's always breaking down, they're in and out of relationships, they can't buy food. That is a struggle, just as much as the climb to the top and building a business and a steady income and multiple income streams is a struggle as well. Both are equally as difficult to deal with. The question is, which path do you want to take for that struggle? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Totally. Yeah. It's difficult for everybody, and everybody's got a different way that they need to approach it, but also, realize that we're all human, we're all dealing with thoughts and feelings and life, and we've got to pay the bills, but we have passions, and sometimes people have parents weighing down on us. Sometimes we have spouses weighing down on us. Sometimes they're supporting us. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes you're isolated. Sometimes you're far away from family. Sometimes you can't make friends. Sometimes you, have trouble connecting and networking with people. Like, everybody's got things, but it's amazing how much more common those things are than we realize. So I think that's a good spot to end. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
Just one other thing for the kids out there listening. perception plays a big role in this, and your life can be what you perceive it to be. So you can be in a difficult situation and perceive it negatively as being difficult, or you can perceive it as an opportunity for you to mentally step up to the plate and find a solution to that problem. I personally, and I'm sure Christian, you're the same way, I have actually found a great level of peace and happiness in approaching problems that way. Now they become something I actually enjoy because I know that it'll be tough for a little while, but the outcome and the end result is I'm going to be happy and I'm going to be a lot better off for going through this. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
yeah,
on,
exactly.
Keep on trucking.
Yeah, and
that's my reductive.
Because it really sums it up perfectly.
So do you have so I know you said you were working on your website still. Do you have any links or anywhere that someone should go to find where they can find your work, or do you have a domain for people to look out for in the future?
I'm putting my business page together right now. Actually today, this afternoon, I'm wrapping up the final details on my graphics and my ad copy for the about section, and then I'll have my business page up. But until then, it's just been my personal page. I'm a very personal guy, so if anybody listening to this, if you have any questions, seek me out on Facebook. I will respond to you like we've been best friends for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time we've had a conversation, and this is really great. So I really appreciate it. You can also find him through getting clients without being salesy, the Facebook group. They have a lot of rules to make sure that you're not a dick, but it's for good reasons. So if you're interested in getting a lot of really great information with people and learn how to not be a jerk when you're trying to sell something to someone, that's a really great group. We always connect on there. And that's how I came across Brandon and many of the people that I'll be interviewing over the next few weeks. So with that, I think, I think that was good. I really appreciate your time. And when you whenever you have your website up, we'll set up another time and we'll talk a little bit more about where you're at in a few months. We'll check in and have another chat. I think it sounds good. All right, buddy. Thank you, sir, and I'll catch you next time. Later. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening to C-Note FM. I hope it makes you want to take over the world or go, flip a car or something positive like that. If you enjoyed the show, please go to iTunes and give it a good rating and all that good stuff, and share with your friends, and let me know how you felt about it. Go to HiMyNameIsChristian.com to find out more about me and what I do, and I'll talk to you and see you next time.